Back when I was an actual child, I would wake up in the middle of the night, sneak into the back room of my childhood home, and watch The Twilight Zone. It was my favorite show, and it was always on around midnight. I loved the way it made me feel and think about things. Was the world I was living in really the way it appeared to be? Ooh! There were so many possibilities to what the world could be, and as a child, this molded me into a lot of who I am today. However, one night, I woke up and went to the television with the anticipation of watching The Twilight Zone, but it wasn't on. Instead, it was something else. Something different than I was used to. Something that challenged me as a child. This was the first time I saw Halloween. I didn't know what it was, but I was hooked to the screen and simultaneously horrified and profoundly affected. I stayed up and watched the entire thing, and by the end of the film, I was truly paranoid like I don't think I've ever been before. Or maybe since. That was the first time I couldn't sleep because of how deeply a film affected me. Many years later. Hello, fine viewer. I'm Nix. I'm an adult person with an unhealthy obsession with Halloween.
Yeah, wait, the movie or the holiday?
I even have a talking skeleton. Did you see it? It's cool.
What the hell?
And these two little skeleton guys. Or maybe it's three. I don't know, I just want you to like me. What? There's even
other spirits
lurking around here that you've yet to experience.
Hello?
No, not you.
I just realized how absurd my existence is.
Me too. I blame John Carpenter. That rat bastard. So this video, like the previous videos, is about one of my favorite movies. Only this one is a little different because I want to start with a question.
What's wrong with you?
No, but also yes. Why is it that 1978's Halloween remains so culturally important and relevant and all that jazz?
Oh.
It's gonna be fun. There's gonna be like twists and turns, and it's gonna be surprising and exciting, and at the end of the video, you might just look at this little slasher film a little bit differently.
Well, I hope I get something out of this with that runtime.
Yikes. Well, let's get a move on then. So Halloween is regrettably a film about like awful, terrible murder, so if that sort of thing bothers you, then this video may not be for you, and it's totally okay to click off, but I still love you all the same. Act 1. Why would you do this? So Halloween remains culturally relevant and important because it shatters suburban innocence and is a takedown of the middle American naivete while being backed up by a truly legendary form.
Really?
Now I can virtually feel all of you like collectively rolling your eyes at the statement that I've just made, but like wait, I'm gonna explain it all over the course of the video.
You'd better, or you're gonna lose all those subscribers that watch you for some reason.
It's good to have a thesis statement, right? I mean, we can all agree it's good.
Well, yeah, if it's not ridiculous.
It's kind of weird, like, by saying that that's what the film is about, you can just imagine, like, John Carpenter himself laughing and calling me an asshole, and then returning to his cigarette before playing literally the coolest synth track of all time. Buy these albums. But I want you all to know that the conceit of me really digging into this comes from a place of true love and experience of the material. Halloween is a movie that I purely love. I mean, I bought the Blu-ray remaster to replace the DVD I got to replace the VHS tape I've had forever. Then I bought the Halloween box set, even though I don't care for like any of the Halloween sequels. Well, except for Halloween 3, my dad thinks I'm a mistake. The point is, Halloween on the surface is a very simple and effective horror film that changed the world. It has lasting impact and remains one of the biggest influences on the genre and its language. Shit, nowadays you watch Halloween and you're like, hey, these are a bunch of tropes, and tropes are bad. Well, Sonny Jim, these tropes wouldn't have existed if it weren't for how well this movie did them at the time. This was kind of the first in a lot of ways. Now many can reference Black Christmas and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as directly influencing this film, and that's probably very true. And one day I should take a look at those films as well, right after I finish my damn degree. The point is, the film hit at a very specific time, was seen by a lot of people, and formed a lot of the language that we currently use in the horror genre.
Oh, okay. I'll bite.
So I really want to delve into this idea, you know, like what is Halloween really saying? Is it saying anything?
Is it saying that William Shatner is white and scary?
Yes. So when it comes down to it, I'm analyzing this film because it still scares me. There are ideas presented in this film that under critical evaluation make me realize the tremendous impact it had on so much of the world because it clearly challenges the culture it exists in. And to return to John Carpenter laughing at me for my extensive over-analysis, it doesn't ultimately matter what he thinks about it. Like, culture has clearly held this film up as being one of the scariest movies of all time. That is mostly uncontested. It remains loved and cherished to this day. And sure, it may have been meme to all hell, but it still works. When you get a packed house together in a theater and turn this film on, it works every damn time. It means a lot to culture, and that's something that I think deserves a bit of prodding and articulation.
Besides, analysis is really fun, even when it's like something that's kind of spooky.
That's like all we do around here.
Yeah, and now we're gonna dive right in. What is Halloween? Really?
The holiday or the movie?
Act 2. What is a Halloween, good sir or madam or non-binary person? That you're all welcome here. Wow, this title has gotten very long. So I think you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find someone that's never heard of Halloween or at least knew what it was. It is everywhere. Every year you've got like that one guy who follows you around no matter where you go with that damn Michael Myers mask, and you know how annoying but kind of charming that guy is. What a goober. Point is, Halloween is less of a singularly contained movie and more of a cultural icon at this point. Watching the movie in or around Halloween is basically a ritual. When I was growing up, they played it on TV like every night for a week leading up to Halloween night. And on a sort of quality level, I think Halloween was kind of scarier this way. Sure, they cut out all the graphic violence and nudity and whatnot, but the movie looked a lot crappier when broadcast on TV. Back in the day, kids that are only slightly younger than me, when horror movies looked like shit, they made it a little more unpredictable. Each frame just kind of looked like mush, so you could never really know exactly what was happening in the background. This is the same reason why folks contend that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is actually a lot gorier than it is, because they had to imagine at least a portion of the image for themselves because the quality was just so low. This is one of the drawbacks of the high-quality Blu-ray versions of horror films that we all now have. Texas Chainsaw Massacre on 4K Blu-ray! Of course, this leads us to a better appreciation of the actual filmmaking on display, but when you're young and you want to be scared, you don't really care about that so much. I almost wonder if movies that a lot of people find contentious today would have benefited from a crappier presentation. Maybe more people would focus on the actual goddamn movie and not get so hung up on the filmmaking that they can now nitpick to death because they can see the whole everything. They can see it all now. Anyways, let's suppose you're saying, but I've never seen Halloween. I'm sure it's cool or whatever, but I've never got around to sitting down and seeing it. Hello, fellow horror fans. I'll be the first to say, I totally understand that. Like, there are so many films like that for me where I just missed out on them, like, in my formative years, and now actually participating in them feels both a bit too late and kind of a chore, but also, like, do I belong here? I don't know. Am I allowed to watch and like this now? Can I still talk about this? I don't know. It feels like it doesn't belong to me, and
I've never seen The Shawshank Redemption.
That's fine, you don't have to.
But isn't it like the best movie ever on IMDb?
What's an IMDb?
That being said, I'm going to quickly cover what the hell Halloween is and recap the whole thing so we're all on the same page and can talk about it. Okay. Whew. And, go. So Halloween is a film written by John Carpenter, who also directed the film, and Deborah Hill, who also produced the film. It was originally an assignment project for Carpenter and Hill about a madman breaking out of an asylum and murdering babysitters who didn't do anything wrong. But John Carpenter and his damn artistic priorities took the film from an exploitation place and turned it into essentially an experimental art film. One Halloween night in 1963, a young Michael Myers murders his sister seemingly without motivation and reason. 15 years later, he escapes from a mental prison, and we learn that his psychologist, Dr. Loomis, believes he is evil incarnate, and he will kill again. The story quickly shifts focus to Laurie Strode, a high school girl who is not quite like her other friends. She's a lot more introverted and calculated than her friends, and while she's interested in a little danger, she's generally good-natured and caring.
In a lot of ways, Laurie Strode reflects, like, the portrait of American innocence. She's truly good.
Which is why someone tries to kill her?
Yeah, yes.
At the beginning of our return to Haddonfield, where Michael originally killed his sister and Laurie Strode now goes to high school, Laurie walks down the sidewalk with Tommy Doyle and they see the remains of the Myers house where the murder was committed all those years ago. Ultimately, the house is in shambles and represents a sort of blemish on the face of the suburban utopia of Haddonfield. It's a memory of that one terrible thing that happened here. And naturally, Tommy Doyle is scared of it, but little does Laurie and Tommy know that Michael is there. And this is when he first sees Laurie. Dr. Loomis strongly believes that Michael will return to Haddonfield to relive the murder of his sister, which he already did. Get out of here now. So he hops in a car and starts heading that direction. Later on, Tommy is leaving school when a bunch of kids come up taunting him that the boogeyman is coming to get him. Of course, the boogeyman here representing that irredeemable figure of pure evil. And then they trip him and he smashes his pumpkin.
This scene always makes me feel so bad.
Did someone smash your pumpkin when you were a kid?
I don't like this conversation.
After school lets out, Laurie and her friends Annie and Linda walk down the sidewalk back to their homes. They talk about boys and Laurie feels awkward and then a spooky car drives by. Annie antagonizes the driver, so therefore... After a moment, they continue talking and run into the Shape. That is how they credit Michael Myers in the credits of this film. Standing behind a hedge. Laurie gets weirded out and goes home. Upstairs, she looks out her window and...
Oh my god, what the fuck is that?
Annie then calls and tells her that she's picking her up at 6 p.m. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis discovers that Michael's sister's headstone has been removed from the local cemetery, which I know that's supposed to be like an eerie thing, but like, can you imagine the visual of this guy just ripping that out of the ground and throwing it over his shoulder and then carrying it home?
He has come home.
Spooky.
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 Huh. Feels like something just happened in my brain just then.
Laurie and Annie smoke pot and listen to Don't Fear the Reaper while driving around town until they come upon Annie's father, Sheriff Brackett. He's a giant goofball who is way too casual about his job and, like, public safety. There was a break-in at the hardware store, a Halloween mask and some knives were stolen, and he chalks it up to some kids or something, whatever, I don't care. They drive off and Sheriff Brackett meets Dr. Loomis, and then one of the most genius things in all of cinema happens. I love this moment so much. Back to Laurie and Annie driving around talking about boys. Laurie has a crush on a guy, but she's too nervous to really talk to him about it, but Annie's like, I'ma hook you two up. Little do they know that Michael follows closely behind in his car.
Whew. Huh. That was a lot. Well, I'm gonna go get a drink. You want anything? Or... no?
I'm a skeleton.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, I'll be right back.
The Shape follows Laurie and Annie to the street where they're babysitting on Halloween night. And then he watches them from a distance. Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Brackett go back to the Myers house to investigate and find remains of a dead animal Michael must have killed and eaten. Then Dr. Loomis graces us with a monologue.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Meanwhile, Laurie talks to Annie on the phone, who tells her she set her up on a date with the boy that she likes, and she gets super uncomfortable. And then Tommy sees Michael Myers across the street. This shot is creepy as shit. He ultimately thinks it's the boogeyman, and Laurie's like, no, you silly goofball, go sit down and read your comic book. I don't know why I made her sound like this, I'm so sorry. Annie spills popcorn oil on herself and goes to wash her clothes, but the Shape is there spying on her, and she gets stuck. After a whole lot of suspense, Lindsay, the child Annie is taking care of, goes to look for her and helps her get out. Whew, thank God. Annie wants to go out with her boyfriend, so she dumps Lindsay off with Laurie, who's a little pissed about it, but she accepts it when Annie promises to cancel the embarrassing date she planned. Actually, kind of a bad move, because then Annie goes and gets in her car, and, well, then, How do I put this into words?
There it is.
Yep, and there's a lot more of that. Where that came from. Am I okay?
Tommy Doyle sees the shape carrying Annie's body across the street and starts freaking out again. Then Laurie's like, I've had it, you're going to bed. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis scares some kids like a total asshole, and then Sheriff Brackett sneaks up on Dr. Loomis, scaring him like an asshole. The audience laughs at this irony. Surprise! Linda and her boyfriend show up at the house Annie's supposed to be babysitting at. They rush in so fast that they forget to shut the car doors. What? Upon realizing the house is empty, they decide to get they upstairs. Afterward, Bob runs down to get some beer and then the shape takes on the shape of Bob the Ghost. No, not that Bob the Ghost. And cleverly enters the room Linda waits in and violently kills her.
He's not a friendly ghost.
People are dead and that's what you have to say about it?
I'm gonna now reflect on my actions.
So Laurie puts the kids to bed and goes to investigate across the street and discovers the dead bodies of all of her friends. Then she's attacked and falls down the stairs, gets up and tries desperately to escape. She gets out of the house and runs to the neighbors screaming for help, and then this, actually legitimately heartbreaking thing happens. She runs back to the house, struggles to get back in, but eventually she does, and then closes the door thinking she's safe. But there's a door open and oh my god, he strikes, and then Laurie stabs him with a knitting needle, or as John Carpenter says, a phallic symbol, which is just kind of, you know what? She goes upstairs and hides in the closet, and he attack. Then she take off coat hanger and stab him, and he dang neck. Thinking once again that it's all over, she naively drops all her weapons and goes into the hallway.
Is it over?
Lol, no, here he come. She pulls his mask off, revealing a very plain-looking person. He puts it back on and gets back to the murdering, but then Dr. Loomis shows up and shoots that bastard 6 times. Yeehaw!
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Then they look over the balcony and he's gone. Then we see different shots of different environments with his breathing, implying he could be anywhere, or better yet, he is everywhere.
And that's the plot of Halloween.
Neato! Analysis time!
Yeah! Analysis time. Woohoo!
So it begins.
Yes. Hey, so does anything feel like weird to you? Like, do you feel like something's different?
No. What do you mean?
Well, when I went to get a drink, I had like the strangest feeling of being watched.
Nix.
Yeah.
You didn't write Michael Myers into the script for the video, did you?
Maybe I did. I don't remember.
You shouldn't have done that. Don't you know whenever you include a popular character in one of your videos, he's contractually obligated to show up and murder you?
Oh no, I didn't know that. Oh, great. Good.
He could be anywhere.
Act 3, Under the Influence of John Carpenter. That makes him sound like a drug. That's ridiculous. Why have I said this? So let me set the stage here with a little caveat about home video releases. So there was this magical time, known as the years before 1975, when movies didn't come out on home video, like really. I mean, like folks had to go see Star Wars like a billion times in theaters because the movie wasn't going to come to home video for like a really long ass time. In this world of home video kind of taking forever, as a filmmaker, you pretty much had one chance to make an impression and then your work vanished from theaters and mostly the whole world unless somebody got a hold of a print of it. So horror films mostly made their impact in theaters when folks went and saw them in droves, and let me tell you what, Halloween made a killing in theaters. It struck a major chord with culture and still stands as one of the most successful independent films of all time. I believe this is for 2 specific reasons. Number 1, the film's formalistic aspects focus on really creating as much suspense as possible. possible, while following it up with one of the thematically strongest ideological climaxes in horror history. Or basically, the film makes really, really good usage of, like, the medium of film. Number 2. The thematics had a lot to say about American culture at the time and still plays off our cultural beliefs and biases today.
Go get me a beer.
I thought you were gonna get me one.
Yeah.
And we're gonna delve into all that now, and hopefully by the end of the video, I don't get murdered.
Well, if you don't leave this room, you should be fine. I mean, you can't teleport in here, right?
You have a point, I just need to not leave this room. Well, no problem. I don't want to. Ever.
Focus on suspense and irony. So arguably, the greatest book on filmmaking ever written is Hitchcock Truffaut, which is essentially a series of recorded and transcribed conversations between Francois Truffaut and Alfred Hitchcock about Hitchcock's filmmaking career. In the book, he really opens up about his perceived strengths and failures, why he did what he did, and how he went about creating some of the greatest moments in cinematic history. If you want to get into filmmaking, hey, start here. This book is infinitely culturally valuable. I mean, shit, when I was reading Manga in Theory and Practice by the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the first thing he does is tell you to read this book. Read this book. Now, I tell you this information because I think it's very helpful, but also because it's kind of directly at play in a lot of our great horror films and gives us a window into understanding how these things affect us. Halloween on a narrative level is simple and rather basic. Guy come kill girl, but he gets shoot and he ghost face. Simple shit. But the whole thing is elevated by this mastery of cinematic suspense. So if you've ever been in a writing class, you're probably familiar with the term dramatic irony. If you're unfamiliar, the term applies to an instance where we, the audience, know something that the character doesn't know. This can range from character traits or flaws, events or placement of characters, or most importantly, significance.
Let's take a look at some examples.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ah!
What?
I don't know why, you scared the shit out of me.
I've been sitting here the whole time. Paranoid much?
So Laurie and Tommy go to the Myers house, which admittedly is rather scary, but we as an audience know that Michael has returned to Haddonfield and has spotted both of them. And because we know his significance as Big Knife Murder Man, this creates suspense. When and where will Michael strike? And most importantly, why? Why them? This is a question the movie never answers to a distinct point that we'll get into later. But to sum it up in kind of a short, formalistic way, we never know why, because that creates the suspense for the movie answering the question, which it never answers. Anyways, later the kids at school tease Tommy about being attacked by the boogeyman, and shortly after this, one of them is grabbed by Michael. This equates, in short form, the term boogeyman to Michael. So later on, when Tommy is looking out the window and sees Michael across the street, we associate with Tommy that he's being tormented by the boogeyman. Of course, Laurie didn't share this earlier moment with Tommy, so we know something that Laurie doesn't know. Then it happens again, but Laurie still doesn't believe it. But after the course of events falling to the end of the narrative, she doesn't understand why this happened to her or them, so she associates it with the only term she knows. Michael Myers, to her, becomes the boogeyman. But the fact that she doesn't know the significance of this leads us as an audience to see her as a purely good figure tormented by a sudden and surprising pure evil. Because the Shape is established as someone who seems to be there and then is totally gone, we know that his movements can come seemingly out of nowhere. But the thing is, sometimes he strikes suddenly, and other times he just kind of lingers. It's the relationship between kinetic energy and potential energy. He slowly comes out of the darkness, and that always makes the moments when he does strike a lot more terrifying. Besides the fact that we know something that the characters don't know, that Michael Myers is standing like right behind them, we as an audience don't know if he's actually going to attack or if he's going to back off. The film uses language that plays with you as an audience to find it both suspenseful and surprising simultaneously.
The most interesting thing is, if you ask yourself, like, what a character does and doesn't know in every scene of the film, it's pervasive. Every single scene is like this. It's like every moment in the film is like relentlessly suspenseful.
So when the movie has established itself wholly in dramatic irony, it becomes endlessly unpredictable. Then both something like a suspenseful diversion where the character disappears plays as equally scary as having the killer suddenly attack. It all becomes scary. Sound.
But due to the sort of relationship with the audience being at the forefront, it decides to also give us like cues.
Like music cues?
Oh my god.
Hey Ben, what's up?
Oh, not a whole lot. I've just been sitting here, being deadly silent and all.
Oh man, that's like 90% of my day.
Okay, that's it. Sorry, sentient radio person, but you're gone. That's it.
I wish he liked me. I just want to help. Gee, it sure is cold out here. Kind of spooky, too.
What's your problem?
I don't know what it is, but it's just like every time he starts talking, it's like acid just being poured directly into my eyes.
Jeez, drama queen.
So non-diegetic music, or basically music that doesn't exist in the film's universe, is heavily used in this film to cue us as an audience into what we're supposed to be thinking at any particular moment in the film. By giving Michael Myers different cue sounds, we are led into the suspense, surprise, and relief of each of the scenes he appears in. The music is used for irony as well. We can hear the music, and the music is clearly suggesting danger, but the characters can't. They can't hear the music. Only we can. Only we know what's gonna happen to them. Oh my god, we have to stop them! This is the sort of thing that makes you want to scream, "Look out!" at the screen in the theater. John Carpenter's score is the product of watching the film and just kind of riffing. He just played more or less what he felt was right for the scene, but it has a specific point to being outside the film's universe. This particular type of non-diegetic themed sound is something that we've seen repurposed in like a million different horror films, so much that it's kind of become part of the language of the genre. This may be the most clearly influential thing in the entire film, but one of the things that makes John Carpenter's original vision of this place so much better is the fact that it's in what's referred to in musical terms as 5/4 time.
This is a complex term because, like, I only know like a cursory amount of music theory know-how, but essentially it just adds an extra beat per bar. This means that the music won't resolve naturally, and it creates like an unending cycle of sound.
Because the sound creates a cycle, it makes it difficult to pinpoint when the music will resolve itself and end. It just feels like it will just never end. It's just gonna go on forever. The music is relentless, just like Michael Myers is. It makes both the suspenseful scenes and the violent scenes in the film feel like they're just unending. And the most interesting thing about the movie, in my opinion, is how, in the end, it never does. It refuses to resolve itself. The music is reflective of the pattern of the entire film. It starts and ends, but there is a haunting and unending quality to it that makes it more or less cyclical.
This is one of the big differences between like Halloween and a lot of the films that came after it. When a lot of slashers end, like you just go home and feel relatively safe, but not Halloween. Halloween follows you home.
That's a neat take. Hey, can you bring Ben back? I like him.
Well, I'm done talking about sound, so yeah, okay. He should be alright. Act 4, Suburban Innocence, Corroded. And it's gotta be the most pretentious title. Oh my god.
So here's the ultimate question. How do we actually go about analyzing a film like Halloween? After what I've just told you about the way the movie uses suspense, it seems that that's sort of the whole point. It just wants to scare you, and it uses very simple but effective tactics to do so. It's an experiential movie. It's about you being in the world and just experiencing it. And if you like to watch Halloween for this alone and not rip apart things you like, hey, that's great. I am not like this. But going back to that motto I brought up in the video I made on Get Out, all art says something. Even the stuff that's fun, even the stuff that's bad, all of it. It all says something. So then a genuine analysis of this film is totally valid, and we can get to the bottom of what the film is actually getting at.
Alright.
Stay with me. Trust me.
Okay.
So an interesting place to start here is with established dichotomies. What is the movie considered to be good? What is the movie considered to be evil? I would argue that the film makes the evil subtext behind Michael Myers' character blatantly just text. He's evil. That's it.
The evil is gone.
Dr. Loomis says it like a lot, almost to where he starts to look like a madman. One could even wonder that if Dr. Loomis didn't constantly reinforce the idea that Michael Myers is a deranged, evil, soulless devil person, if perhaps he would have changed when he was institutionalized? I don't know. That's just a random thought. All that aside, Michael Myers clearly symbolizes unrelenting evil in the context of the story, and he enters suburban middle America to cause terror and destroy the safe bubble they've all been living in. So what does this movie consider to be good? Well, I'm not even sure that it's that black and white. Obviously, there are people in the movie that don't cause any trouble or do anything too morally awful. I mean, Annie and Laurie smoke pot, and Annie leaves Lindsay in Laurie's care so she can go get her. But are those like evil things? Of course not, silly. Well, Linda and Bob break into somebody's house to get. But is that like the worst thing in the world? You know, like, they haven't killed anyone. They probably don't deserve to be brutally murdered for that. I mean, I don't know. So I think the film posits that they're all good. Everything they've done is sort of innocently normal. Someone coming and killing those people is obviously abnormally evil. So the movie isn't actually painting the war between good and evil or anything like that. I think more or less it's about the truest form of evil entering an innocent and naive environment to kind of destroy it. At the end of the film, yes, there are people dead, but for the most part, it's the audience's safety within their own sort of innocent lives that have been hurt worst of all. Michael Myers symbolizes that unrelenting evil that pervades our culture that we don't even realize is there. In this way, the movie is a really paranoid one about the underlying evil that can so easily infect us.
Oh, huh. I think I get it.
Well, that's unfortunate because that interpretation is wrong.
Wait, what did you just say to me? Asshole?
So we've forgotten the most important thing about the whole movie. The opening scene. The one where young Michael, not an outsider Michael, regular child Michael, murders his sister for no real reason. This isn't some invasion force that's come to erode suburbia from the outside. It's been here the whole time. Shit, it was born here. Evil was birthed in Haddonfield. All it had to do was come home. Now, if we look at this bit from like a psychological perspective, this is a bit antiquated. That's a bit of a weird thing that people believe, that some people just randomly go pure evil. It seems like that sort of thing is, well, kind of rare, to say the least. In context of when this film was made, the pervasiveness of a lot of famous serial killers was kind of on the public consciousness. I mean, the Summer of Sam killings were literally going on while this film was in pre-production. Talk about exploitation. So this idea of someone snapping and killing a whole bunch of people was scary for a couple reasons. There could be a serial killer living in your neighborhood, or even worse, you could be a serial killer, you bastard. Didn't see that one coming, did ya? There's a twist ending for you. Well, there it is. You've become a serial killer. Here you are looking through the window at your sister. Here you are putting on a clown mask and grabbing a knife. Oh no, you can't stop yourself. What are you going to do? And there it is. You've murdered someone. Oh, and also you were a kid the entire time.
As blatant as this sort of idea is, like, the opening shot isn't a perspective shot because it's cool.
So the film is a simulation of becoming a serial killer?
Yeah, at first.
So if this film is trying to explore psychopathy, it handles the public persona in a really interesting way. We become the unmotivated killer, which is something people still think is really common, and the film looks at that same killer later on in the film as explicitly evil and unrelenting. Now, this view of people's psychology as being kind of like a dog that just randomly starts biting people and won't ever stop is antiquated, but it's also accurate to America's actual fears on the viewpoint. If anything, it stands to exploit that fear to convey its bigger points. But here's an important bit of context. The suburban middle America thing wasn't some random choice. This was clearly the whole point. Suburbia is seen as a bit of a utopian thing in a lot of ways. We'll move our family over here to get away from those scary people in the city and start our perfect life over here, honey. White picket fence, 2 boys and a girl, the American dream. Nothing bad ever happens here. Well, except for that one time that suburbia spawned a literally pure evil that murdered his sister for no real reason. That happened, and of course the Myers house stands as a representation of that blemish in this perfect utopian place. Evil can come from anywhere, even in the safe world of the suburbs of middle America, even from your own brain. Evil could be your next door neighbor and you would never know it, ever. Well, until it killed you.
Shit, that's intense.
Right? It's this like paranoid reality of Halloween that gives it such like cultural staying power. It just like hits a little too close to home.
There could be a killer outside right now.
Well, probably not, but you know.
So Suburbia is like the place you run away from the fears of the world to distance yourself and your family from the world's perceived problems, but evil can come from anywhere, even from your own family. It's unpredictable, it's unrelenting, and you never know when it could happen. You think you're safe, but you are not safe. Make no mistake, this is why the film had such staying power. It hit a piece of cultural history that still kind of lingers. People are still worried about this sort of thing. And to make matters worse, the movie literally follows you home. At the end of the film, when Michael Myers disappears and we hear his breathing everywhere, the movie doesn't let you off the hook. Evil is everywhere, even in your car, or in your house, or at your best friend's house.
And now that I've made my point, like, painfully clear, I'm going to delve into something that's not in the movie.
Rainbows and candy.
Yes.
Where the hell are all the parents? Well, the only parents we really see in the film are Michael Myers' parents that just stare at him, and Sheriff Brackett. They do have something in common though. None of them know what the hell is going on. I think this film puts a lot of blame on the assumptive parents moving their family to suburbia with the assumptions that it will be perfect and nothing bad will ever happen. I mean, in the opening scene, Michael Myers' parents just stare at him trying to process what happened. It's almost kind of creepy. Did we do this? Maybe we didn't pay enough attention to him. How could we have seen this coming? Where were they on Halloween night that wasn't with their son? How often are they not there? Sheriff Brackett stands outside the hardware store after it was broken into and knives were stolen and is just like, it's just some kids, no big deal, I don't know what's going on. The aloofness, the naivete of the parents that are in the film says a lot about what the film thinks about them. Most of them simply aren't there at all. So if the movie is about cycles in some form or fashion, it only makes sense that the night that Michael was being babysat by his sister when he murdered her is meant to directly parallel Laurie and Annie babysitting on Halloween night. 15 years later, nothing has really changed. The parents are still aloof and thinking that they've moved their children somewhere safe enough that they can disregard their children in favor of doing something else on Halloween night. I'm not gonna hang around my kids and have a fun time.
So this serves as like the perfect way to get Michael Myers back to Haddonfield, and now we're going to get into anachronism, like as a concept.
Hey, whatever happened to Ben?
Oh, he was murdered, I think.
Oh, that's unfortunate. He was my friend.
I know. Shit. Is that my fault? Because, like, I knew there was, like, a killer on the loose, and I put a haunted radio who, like, couldn't move, like, in harm's way.
Yeah, that one's definitely on you.
But wait, he's like a haunted radio, right? So, like, can he actually die?
Hello? Can someone help?
Act 5, anachronism. That's like a big weird word. There's an interview where John Carpenter in his old age talks about his career and what he really wanted to do and how he ultimately ended up here. He's really honest about some dissatisfactions he had with his career as well as things that he thinks he really has done to change cinema. He says that he got into film to make westerns. And when I first listened to this, I thought it was funny. He still made his genre films, just a totally different genre than he could have expected. How interesting. What a tidbit. But I've returned to that string of thought recently, and I've had a bit of an epiphany on the whole thing. In a weird roundabout way, John Carpenter still kind of made his westerns. Maybe that's the whole thing. John Carpenter kind of brought his western sensibility to horror films, and that's kind of why it changed the landscape of the genre.
I don't know if I follow.
Just hold on a sec, okay?
Okay.
There's a common turn of phrase that really gets to the bottom of what westerns really are in a thematic sense. I mean, from a formalist perspective, we know what a western looks like, but what does a western feel like? That phrase I was mentioning basically goes, westerns are about the end of things. They are about the world changing in conflict with something old-fashioned. Westerns are about anachronisms, things that don't belong where they are. There's a character that doesn't really fit with the changing modern world and doesn't much understand it or actively disagrees with it, and typically they have to adapt to it or they die. The shifting tide always overcomes the cowboy because he doesn't belong in the new world. This is sort of the tragedy of the whole genre. But when you look at John Carpenter's films, get ready for some real reaching. They tackle the same ideals in a lot of ways. The idea of anachronism. His films are about the end of things, the end of the world, the end of the naivete and innocence of a society, the end of blindness to the truth of the world. Make no mistake, there's a reason why The Thing feels so much like a western in a sort of way. It's because The Thing is representative of a change, and this change will ultimately overtake the characters in time. The Thing is about a changing force. The Thing is about anachronism. If you really look at it a certain way, John Carpenter still kind of made his westerns. But by translating them into other genre attitudes and language, he became a changing tide in what the horror genre could do, what the horror genre could tackle. John Carpenter always made films about big things and big themes that said bold things about the world as he saw it. They were cynical and cold, while also warm and human. This is what changed the genre. This is his contribution.
Holy shit.
But let's go ahead and apply this to Halloween for a minute.
So, if we view the film through this lens, what is Halloween really about? What is the anachronism that must be left behind to move into the new world? I think that it's ignorance. The film makes it clear that by trusting too much of the world that parents have created for their children, they have doomed them to the real world of danger. Protecting isn't about ignoring the issues of the world, it's about communicating them and engaging with them. It's very similar to the way that a lot of parents see things like sex ed. If you teach abstinence, then everything will be fine. They just won't do it. But by making them ignorant, you've opened them up to a lot of dangers when they ultimately don't follow the program like normal human beings. By not teaching them of the dangers and how to avoid them and making them aware, they're open to making life-ruining mistakes. In essence, it's this type of thinking that leads to the events of the film, the ignorance of the possibilities. And I'm sure that there was a very difficult conversation to be had in the 1970s about serial killers with children. That was probably something that a lot of people just tried to avoid at all costs. And I have a feeling that the film had that in mind. In essence, it's this type of thinking that leads to the events of the film, the ignorance of the possibilities. 15 years ago, a young boy, for no real reason, murdered someone, and the community at large, in not talking about it and making it known, has inadvertently perpetuated a mystery about that scary-ass house that lies in the suburb. Tommy asks if the house is haunted instead of having any real idea of what's happened there. Most of the movie, he's thinking about the boogeyman instead of some purely evil man come to cause harm. And ultimately, this is why no matter how many times Laurie kills Michael, he won't die, because you can't kill an idea. You can't kill a force of nature. And really, when it comes down to it, Michael is a force of violent and abrupt change that they've seemingly hidden themselves from in their perfect suburb. And after Michael disappears, he's everywhere and you never know where he could come from next. This is why the film has such a focus on you, the audience. It's trying to warn you by making you scared. The end of the film puts its burden on you, and now nothing feels safe, and now you aren't ignorant to the world you're living in and the possibilities. At the end of the movie, Laurie Strode will never be the same. Dr. Loomis will never be the same, and we, the audience, will never be the same.
Huh, that's really interesting.
Yep, but now I gotta pee, so I'll be right back.
Wait, no, did you hear what I said? If you go out there, you'll die.
Look, I'm hearing what you're saying, but like I'm going to actually die if I don't like go out there like right now.
Well, good luck.
Thanks, friend.
Oh, no. Been murdered.
Nix, is that you?
Oh shit. I never thought I'd be so happy to hear that voice. Well, looks like this is the end, buddy. We've had a good run, right?
You threw me out the house knowing there was a murderer out here.
Well, I forgive you.
That's it. I'm gone. Yep.
Shit. Now I have to lay here dying alone. Maybe if I had been maybe more accepting, or more loving, or more gooder, this would not have happened to me. It's ironic that it took me this long to realize that while all my friends are haunted inanimate objects, the least human of them all was me. No! Damn it! No! I'm not going to lay here and die in the dog shit in the dirt. No, this is not how I go. Oh, fuck. So what, am I gonna have to, like, fight you or something? Because, like, I have been stabbed multiple times, and I left my stand in the house. So I'm sorry.
Yep, he's dead.
Horror films, in a large way, are about this surrogation. It's safely looking at a scenario that is the ugliest scenario of them all. And in that way, with that level of distance, you can ask yourself, what would I do in that scenario? Do I need to be thinking about that? In a certain way, I think the film aims to give us an impression of what trauma is. In the moment when something truly traumatic happens, we aren't seeing the nuances of the situation. We aren't asking ourselves what led this person to attack us. We don't even know what's happening to us or why. And really, we can never know why. In a lot of ways, I think horror films have that capability, a safe means by which we can experience a trauma alongside a character in order for us to understand those that do experience trauma. It's easy for us to see things at an arm's length, like I'm sure many had to do during the Summer of Sam, and not identify with the indescribable pain experienced by the victims and survivors. But by putting us safely in the scenario, we can't speak to what a victim may have experienced, but maybe we'll empathize a bit better. Maybe we'll have those difficult conversations, and maybe we'll try our best to help when the time comes and not be that person that doesn't help Lori by opening their door. Act 6, Conclusion and Lasting Impact. You know, a lot of other films have tried to do exactly what Halloween did. They tried to capture the spirit of the thing by adopting the form of the movie, the music that really enhances the suspense, the killer without a face, but they've never really captured that meaningful aspect. I know John Carpenter never intended for Halloween or really any of his films to change the world, but they did. They scared the world in such a necessary way, in such an intensely personal and meaningful way, in a way that promoted awareness and change. That's the difference between something neat and fun and something important. Is it trying to be a good horror movie, or is it trying to say something? Turns out you can do both. Halloween is so much more than just a scary movie. It's a cultural landmark that marks a shift in the way we make and talk about horror films. It's a film that surrogates you into the genre. It's a movie that, in the 70s, at the height of serial killers being in the public sphere, allowed you to safely enter that scenario and really think about it. Horror films have a tendency to be put in this box that it has to be scary, but I think the ending dialogue of this film communicates such rich humanity and sadness and loss and true fear of the world. Was that the boogeyman? Yes.
Now what do I do with my life?
Hey there.
Holy shit, you made it!
Yeah, yep, and I brought a friend. Look, it's the guy. It's the guy you like. He's back. I found him. He was out there.
Well, what the hell? I thought you were dead for sure.
Yeah, well, let's just say I made a friend. So, yeah.
Hey everyone! Holy shit, this video was a big thing. Wow, I did not expect this to be this huge when I wrote this stupid script down and was like, oh, this is only a lot of pages, everything will be fine. There's so many people to thank, oh my god, I don't even know where to start. Okay, first off, my wonderful crew. All the camera work was done by my wonderful and masterful DP, Skellyfish. Matt turned out to be the perfect Michael Myers, big shout out to that. And big shout out to Aaron and Megan for helping out. And who could forget my friend Ben and his wonderful voice voice talent as the radio. He's great, his channel's great, and I love him. I'd also like to thank my patrons who generously donate to keep the show growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it eventually crushes me. I honestly hope I haven't let you down, and I hope that you really like this. And I will now read out literally every name who supports me this month for the first time, and I will do this forever now. Ross Williams, Gabriel Bishop, Carmelita Jalapa, Picnic, Sheikah Cat, Sarah Kelm, Blythe Pilcher, I'm terrible, Rachel Garat, Amber the Atheist, Jen Nee, Zachary King, Savannah, Alex Tyndall, Andrew the Trash Man Pashka, Cole Davies, Kyle Backus, Topher, John Redford, Travis Morris, Ryan Creasy, Ruby, Anthony D. Turlizzi, I'm so sorry about that, Dr. Nefarious, Andrew Green, Jack Edgar, Shay Novak, Alex X, Nick Morrow, Drew Benson, Lex Reckless, Abysme, S. Delancey, Oliver Bulmer, Paul Holiday, David Lestras, Marie, Adam Burr, Shava Conquest, Anne-Marie Smith, Tora Hoydal, Corin Forrest, Kermunklin, Joe Blank, Allerdale, Allison, Andrew Muto, Charles Antoine St. Pierre Lumiere. Wow, what a name. Kyle Hasher, Joey Eckley, Eric Bronner, Dylan McDonald, Sam Ingle, Johan Pointras, Alex March, Caitlin Rep, Martin Guidobler, Ben Casey, Sage Whitaker, Madam Satan, Dark Jackwolf, Gannon Small, Robin Hunter, Arctic Vixen, Laura Dehan, Rye, Freak Vendor, Nightmind, what? Katie, Connor Breitling, Air Noble, Jenna Crouch, Dorsha, Olivia Kloss, Nick Corpius, Reagan Little, Tempest Montgomery, Matthew Stevens, Chloe Lugo, Carl Abbott, Nicholas Myers, Emmy Manning, Dusk Hollow Studio, Victoria Hill, Hannah J13, Jay Peterson, Joe Bory, Beth Tierney, Rhiannon S. Berry, Kels Danger, Chris Wagner, Lexi KZ, Evan Byland, Jessica Blumel, Mark English, what? Jason Nuss, Conrad Kirchner, Thomas Gibbs, Elena Alvis, Jacob Palacio, Colin Bostock, Stephen Clem, Christian Lapointe, Angel Robinson, Patrick Forsyth, Ben Biggerstaff, Lloyd Morgan, Nico Honeyman, Jonathan Shelton, Mauve Laces, Haley Carlin, James Id, Becky Kokek, Christopher M. Jones, Megan Cubed, Drucifer, Nick Waters Jolly, Casey Schlellenberger, I'm so sorry, Lindsay Klepper, Natalie Krapel, Lisa L, Christopher Heyerdahl, Jay Victor, Informal Attire, Ben, Robin, Katie Thomas, Vicky S, Grace Robinson, Taylor Christian, Luca Tedbury, Charles Ling, Luke Roberts, Jennifer S. Kelsey, Neon Cinephobia, Joel Atinskin, April Lausen, 556ers, Wolfman Gabriel Blackmane, Jacinta Amy, Trina Wolfie, Alexis, Roki Osborne, M. Spiegel, Squally Green Thumb, Sickeningy, Poppy Bignell, Zachary B, Baptism on Fire, what? Vinyl Migraine, Paige Shattuck, Ronnie Dykes, Harvey Harrison, Alicia Ward, Scolopendra Cherry Red, Horrible Reviews, Daniel Porter, Speedweed, Michael Gibble, Mina Fetch, Kira Prater, Augusta Gailey, Fainting Pygmy Goats, Centipede, Fairy Kisu, Daniel Giesk, Aya, Lynette I, Amanda Robbins, Alex Rodriguez, Michael Boozer Rojas, Annie Kruger, Kat D, Hagen Dice, Stephanie, Scarlet Messenger, EM, Several Bats, J.L. Hale, Lux Alpaca, Prince Proti, Reska, Nancy Nightingale, Thomas Quill, John Elliott, Chuckles the Clown, Alkali Ether, Kelly Bomer, Magnus Prophecy, Dominique Meyer, Madison L. Kolaluka, Kobe Beef, Canary T. Robot, Sparky K.I., Mika Hearn, Brittany Meister, Hard Zero, Tara J., Bloodbath and Beyond, Luis Alvarado Garcia, Film Lover Mike, Caitlin Amanda Ramsey, James Selway, Beverly Ampey, Robin Theriault, Roy Schneck, Jordan Lennon, Jim Gilson, Renata Vercake, Kayla Weber, Umbrella Boat Studio, Brianna, Nicole Roth-Lutner, Indigo Thursday, Darlene Melvin, Var, Austin Mackert, Micah Versace Python Harris, Blake L. Andrews, Jorge Contreras, Kai Kingston, Carla Hoffman, Noah Morgan, Renee Hazibo, Tony Wong, Alyssa M. Rowand, Sergio Arminta, Kaylee Adams, Axel Megan Plays, Manuel Klassen, Rima Hamalainen, Andre the Turtle, Charlie Quartz, Liam the Burge, Araya213, Jeramobi, John J. Dick, and Christopher Tate. Thank you guys all for your donations and allowing me to do this. It truly means the world to me that I'm able to support myself with my art, and hopefully you guys like this as much as I liked making it. Thank you guys for supporting me, and I'll see you very soon. Good night.